7:30, so I think we'll begin our meeting. You have the minutes of our previous meeting in front of us. Is there a motion to approve these? Bruce?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Is there a second? Trevor will second the meeting. All those in favor of signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. This morning we have on our regular agenda to consider a variance request for the following: to reduce the rear yard setback of 20 feet to 0 on an R1 zoning property. Also to exceed the maximum impervious area of 50% on an R1 zoned property to 100% coverage. To reduce the landscape requirement of 15 feet on an R1 zoned property to 0 feet. And a request to reduce tree requirement of 1 tree on the R1 zoned property to 0. The request is for the Rural Fire Department located at 706 South Main, West 1/2 Lot 8, Block 4, Gress Subdivision. Is there someone here to speak for this morning?
Thank you. Excuse me. Andrew Schrank with Highlands Engineering, representing the applicant, the Dickinson Rural Fire Department. This request is to allow for a building addition to the current Dickinson Rural Fire Department site on the south side of town. They'd like to add on to account for some issues they've been having with the site currently being too small to fit their needs. They have vehicles stacked up too deep in these stalls, so to get one vehicle out, they have to pull one out, and it's just adding time to their calls, and it's just inefficient in their processes. The proposed addition would be 2 stories. They'd like to add 2 garage bays to account for the issues I just spoke to. They'd also like to add a fitness room to the 2nd story to add some amenities for their volunteers. They're hoping to help retain volunteers and encourage volunteers by adding some amenities to this building. The impervious area is directly tied to this addition. We would not be able to meet the current code impervious area. They currently have overheads that span around a lot of this site, so they need to be able to get in and out of those, and we need concrete aprons around these buildings. Excuse me. And there's just maintenance concerns with the staff there. They're volunteers. They're not there all the time. It's hard to get volunteers to go out and pull weeds when they have public safety matters to address. So the impervious area will maintain access to the building, and it also gets rid of the maintenance problems. There's currently gravel on this site, so it gets rid of the dust, the mud, all of those issues that are currently there today. There are 3 members of the Dickinson Rural Fire Department here today: Todd, the fire chief, Ed, and George, who are on the board for the fire department. So if you have any questions directly for them, they'd be happy to address those as well.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board regarding this proposal? I had a discussion with the president of the board before he left, and he has a concern about the landscaping, and I guess that would come back to the city as far as, does the city have any comments regarding this?
The city would like them to maintain some retention for the water and landscaping. It looks like they're also putting a fence up to do a little bit of.
That's correct. They would have a privacy fence planned for the southern property line, which would help buffer this use from the adjacent residential uses.
The municipal code would require percent impervious. I think with the building will be a little over 70 with the addition of the building.
The building's, I think, about 60% of the lot.
With the new one?
Correct.
Well, in talking with my building official too, he would strongly encourage to maintain some of that water retention.
So if they needed to do that, obviously they're going to want some, basically it'd have to be the back space would have to be left without pavement or concrete. Is that what you're saying? Okay. And with the new addition and that back space left in gravel, what percent of that is left as pervious?
Which is back, well, if you're saying it was 6,
If we left the area behind the building impervious, that would be about 20% impervious. You'd be 80% impervious and 20% pervious is what I was coming up
Okay.
with.
The other question our chairman had was the overhead doors going out to the property line. Is that going to create a problem?
on the west side, we're only 3.1 feet from the property line. City municipal code would require 20 feet on that side. The city is seeing, the only issue with that overhead door is when you're backing, if you're backing vehicles out, that we could potential of pedestrians on sidewalks and or traffic.
And the building official did express that concern to me as well, and we are open to moving that interior to the building, so that would no longer open to the west, it would open within the building. That was for us, access to a storage area, so they can move that within the building itself, so there would be no overheads out to the west. And with respect to the impervious area, we understand the concerns with runoff. However, the building, or the site is currently all gravel. It is essentially impervious today. So really the increase in runoff would be minimal from what it is today. As we said, with the maintenance concerns, with access, the preference would definitely be to be able to pave the whole site. I think you'll get a better final product. Like I said, they don't have the staff out there to maintain landscaping. And our concern is it's just not going to look great over time.
Okay. Any other comments from the city?
Those are the only concerns the city has.
Okay.
So I guess I have a bit of a concern too. If I was living next to this area, is that, how is that area as far as drainage? I mean, is there, obviously this gravelled area is going to soak up some moisture as it comes off that building, or it's going to at least slow it down, where concrete or blacktop would not. Is that an area where it's potentially could cause a problem to two of the neighbors, it looks like?
The retaining wall, I believe, currently captures that runoff and directs it out to the east and west. I was just talking with Todd here. He has talked to the property owner to the southwest of this site. It sounds like they did have some concerns when snow is piled. It tends to direct runoff around that wall, and there may be some issues there. So it's something they just have to change on their maintenance. And as we do these site improvements, we would definitely look at drainage and design it to be routed around these properties.
So if you would put that in concrete, or are you considering blacktop or concrete, asphalt or?
We'd probably look at both. We'd probably bid both and bid alternates and see which comes in better pricing.
So when you drain that, do you drain it east or west, or how would that drain?
I would imagine we'd likely put a valley gutter somewhere in that area south of the building and drain it out to the east and to the west to get it into the road.
That would be my only concern is draining, that's a lot of roof area. That's a lot of area to push into the neighbor's yard. We'd need to somehow guarantee, kind of assure that water is going to go east and west. And do you do that by putting a curb there, or how
That would likely be either a valley gutter or a curb, something on that south property line to direct that water out each direction.
Does the, on the west end of the existing building, On the south side of that, does all of that drain to the east? Or is it split in the center of the building and goes east and west?
I don't have topography on the site yet. We haven't done a full site survey, but I believe it splits. I don't know if you guys know. Okay. So right now, I think it's fairly flat back there. It doesn't drain real well either way, but as we do our site improvements, that's something we could definitely enhance, like you say, with a curb or a valley gutter to get that to drain out.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Is that curb something that the city could agree with?
That would definitely help keep water off of other properties. I think with the retaining wall there too, that we do a fairly good job as of right now, keeping the water off the south properties, correct?
Yes, like I say, I think the only issue is when there is snow piled up at that southwest corner of the property, it tends to spill over that wall. So that's something they're going to look at addressing, and we'll look at that in design to try and come up with some solutions to that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There isn't anyone to speak against this morning?
Were there any comments or complaints from the neighbors? Okay.
Okay, if there aren't any more questions, I would entertain a motion to either accept this proposal or to reject this proposal.
I have one question for city. I know it's an R1 zoning. The use isn't obviously a typical R1 type of a use. If we were zoned more appropriately, would we be close to what would be required for that zoning district?
Yes, considering we are putting up an opaque fence now, that would be one of the biggest, if it was zoned a commercial law, we would need that opaque fence. So we are getting closer to that compliance because of the zone now.
Okay.
Is there a motion from the board?
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Chairman? As far as landscaping, currently there's no landscaping on the site. We just have gravel, is that correct?
That is correct. There's no landscape.
I guess I have a question as well. I'm looking at the one photograph with the snow on it. Where will you put this snow now, once we get the building put in there?
Mr. Chairman, currently it all gets piled up either behind to the south or to the west of the building. Once the addition's done, of course, the west is going to no longer be there. It'll potentially be stored behind the building on the south side and then hauled out as the snow gets too much.
Okay. And has there been any objection from the owner
There has not.
doing this?
No, there has not.
Okay.
And that's part of the concern about putting landscape rock or gravel in the back, coming in with loaders to haul that out. And of course, if you look at the north hall, that gravel piles up and it just isn't very feasible for snow removal.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Does the city have any real issues with that street side yard setback if they remove that door from that west side?
If the doors are removed, or if that door is removed, there's no other issues with it. It appears that all the site on the intersection should be good with neighboring yards. We shouldn't have any hazards.
So the real concern is a drainage issue that the city's seeing.
Yeah.
Is there storm sewer in the area? Have you looked at that, Andrew, at all to see it? Could you tie into something there? I should know, but I can't remember.
I haven't checked, but I don't believe there is. The only thing, there may be something in that frontage road, but I don't know if it extends up this far
That far.
north.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance findings that the requirements of section 3912.011C1 have been met by the applicant for the variance with the following conditions. One, that outside overhead door on the west is removed from the plans. And number two, that a curb is added to the south side of the property. And number three, that a fence is installed, an opaque fence is installed on the property on the south side.
Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
Trevor, seconded. Okay. Those in favor, Bruce?
Aye.
Trevor?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. Hopefully, the city will stay with you on the project and make these 3 corrections and put this together. We certainly don't want a neighbor that's unhappy once the building is put up. So, thank you. Are there any other items to come before this meeting? If not, I'll entertain a motion to conclude this.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Sean, second.
Second.
Trevor? All right, motion to adjourn. Thank you.